Hello, this is Kenny Williamson, and welcome back to another episode of Melchizedek Chronicles. Today is, what is today? Today is Friday, January the 23rd. This is the day of the big, gigantic winter snowstorm or an ice storm that's supposed to be hitting us here in a few hours. If you've been paying attention to that, that's a pretty big popular thing that's all over the news right now. So here in Arkansas, where I live, we're supposed to get mainly snow, according to the experts, the so-called experts. South of us, there's a highway that runs north and south, I-40, Interstate 40. They're saying that south of I-40 is supposed to be ice. North of I-40 should only be snow. Well, I'm north of I-40, and I'm hoping for just snow because, ice has a tendency to shut a lot of things down, knock all your power lines down, and no electricity, that whole kind of stuff. So we're hoping and praying here that nobody gets any of that stuff, really. I mean, I hope nobody gets anything life-threatening. Doesn't look like that is going to happen, but I guess we'll see. So, one of the things we have here, which a lot of people have, they may be all over the United States for all I know, is Waffle House. So, do you have Waffle House where you're at? Well, I was reading an article about, things to look for, things to kind of look at to see where you're at, so to speak. So let's say you're in a critical type weather situation or something like that. You can look at certain things to kind of determine how far off you are or how far gone you may be. And so what I ran across is called the Waffle House Index. And what that is the Waffle House Index is an informal disaster severity metric based on whether or not your local Waffle House restaurants are operating after a storm or during the storm. So let's see here. It's a southern, I guess Waffle House is a southern thing. I don't know. Maybe it's up north. I really don't know. But anyway, so Waffle Houses are known basically for their strong disaster preparedness and for staying open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Even during extreme weather, they're open. Holidays, they're open. So here, where I live, if you want to go to your Waffle House on Christmas Day, no problem, it's open. Christmas Eve, no problem, it's open. It's always open. So I can see why they say that, because something has to be pretty bad before the Waffle House closes. Now, here a while back, here where I'm at, the Waffle House did close kind of for about a week, and nobody really knew why. Now, according to social media reports, which doesn't mean they're accurate by any means, they said that they had a rat problem. And so the kitchen was full of rats, which, allegedly. And so they had to shut the place down and get rid of the rats. I don't know. Maybe. They might have just had to do some kind of renovation. I mean, if they did it in the kitchen because nothing has changed in the front where you eat. It looks exactly the same. So, according to this Waffle House Index, of course, they've got three levels of that. So the first level, or the green level, is the restaurant is open and serving the full menu. So if you have a big ice storm, whatever happens, and it's open and it's got the full menu, this suggests minimal damage and that the community that it's in has not been severely impacted, right? So that's the green level. which seems to be the case 99.9% of the time here. Then you've got your yellow, it's number 2, which is the restaurant is open, but it's on a limited menu. So often because power issues or supply shortages, and this indicates a moderate impact. So, here a while back, it's been a few years ago, we had a big ice storm. And I know a lot of the restaurants were out of different things. They said, well, we can't get it. We're out of tomatoes, for example. Went to a couple of different restaurants for like a week later, and every restaurant in town was out of tomatoes. Said they couldn't get tomatoes. Yeah. I didn't really believe it, but that's what they claimed. So, but Waffle House had everything. Full menu. Now, if you had have went there, and ordered, bacon and eggs, and they're like, oh, I'm sorry, we're all out of eggs, or we're all out of bacon today, that would be really weird. It'd be like, out of bacon? Well, what happened to the bacon? Say, well, we have a shortage of bacon here in Arkansas. There's lots of chickens and lots of hog farms around here. How could you be short of bacon? Or eggs for that matter. So, but, that's the second condition there. On the third index in this 3-index system here is the red. Red is obviously the restaurant is closed. So because Waffle Houses almost always stay open 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, if you find it closed, then obviously there must have been some severe damage or significant disruption. So, i.e., if we really have a huge power outage like they're saying, and it goes dead for several hours, it's obviously going to close. Now, having said all that, the reason I mention that is that people are comparing that set of matrix stuff there for Waffle House. They're comparing that index to Texas. So what they're saying is, Texas is south of 540, where it's supposed to hit. If you look at the map where the storm is supposed to hit, it's going to just basically be all through Texas. A few years ago, Texas got a huge ice storm, and, people didn't have electricity for like a month. So people started noticing. They're like, well, how bad do you think it's going to get down here? Well, they said, well, it must be pretty bad on the Waffle House index because Ted Cruz, who is a senator over there in Texas, he shagged out of the state. He, this thing is hitting the 20th, which today's the 23rd. Today's the 23rd. It's supposed to be hitting today on the 23rd, this evening. And so apparently he all of a sudden said, oh, by the way, I've got some vacation plans. I got to get out of town this weekend. And so he was seen on a plane. And of course, people took pictures of it. It's all over the internet, where he was on a plane flying out of Texas, going to California to the beach, Laguna Beach, according to this. And so he's on the beach somewhere while his state apparently is fixing to get decimated. Now, I hope it doesn't, but, based on the Waffle House index, when these guys like this that are, in the know, that knows what's going on, shags out of the state real quick before the storm gets there and goes to a warm place, makes you wonder if he knows something we don't know. You think? While all of us common folk are stuck at our houses and stuck at our jobs and we can't leave to do anything, you've got guys like this, these high up government people. Hey, they get out of town 3 days in advance and they don't come back. So, I guess he'll be monitoring Texas weather from the beach in California. We all don't get a chance to do that, do we? No, most of us have to sit right here and suffer through it. So, like here, I'm hoping we don't have terrible, but, I did stock up on groceries, made sure I had all my groceries, made sure I had fuel in all the vehicles. I've got a generator, made sure I had the generator out and it started and it's full of fuel and some extra fuel for it, hoping I don't need it. And I've got several different sources of heat. So, I don't know. Hoping we don't lose electricity. If we do, I definitely will not be out here in this studio doing this because it will be pitch black in here. The generator's not going to run this. It's going to have to run something in the house like a refrigerator or something. So anyway, so Ted Cruz, he shagged. Don't know when he's going to be back. I read one deal where he said that he'd already had this pre-planned, way in advance. It just happened to be, on the 20th is when he's leaving, and this storm just happens to be hitting the 23rd. All coincidence, right? Because these guys don't know any of this stuff in advance, right? I mean, you believe that, right? I don't. So I've got another deal here to show you about this. Let me hit my bookmarks here. Let me get this pulled up for you. Let's pause it for a second. No. This thing just takes off. All right, let me share the screen here. There we go. Now, if you can see this is a weatherman up in New York. If you cannot see this, well, again, this is a weatherman up in New York, and what he's doing is he's put some numbers together here. Kind of interesting. Let me just play it for you, and then I'll tell you what I think. It's only 30 seconds long. Here we go. Well,
New Yorkers have got to be scratching their heads saying, what's with the sixes? This is what I'm talking about. This is what I was working on, Gail, when I ran in here. Think about this. 1996, all right? We had a storm that delivered 20.2 inches, the fifth biggest in city history. 10 years later, 2006, we pick up our second biggest snowstorm ever, 26.9. 10 years after that, 2016, we pick up the biggest snowstorm in New York City history, 27.5. What does 10 years later, this Sunday, on 2026 hold? We shall find out, Gail.
So, if you heard that, obviously, we've got lots of sixes going on here. So far, 3 in a row. 666. Okay. We've got 1996, 2016. No, 1996, 2006, 2016. Those are the 3 sixes. And now here we are, 2026, another 6, and they're forecasting a humongous large storm. So far, every 10 years, they've had a record-breaking, gigantic storm every 10 years. So, well, the key here is 666. Now, okay, if you're not familiar with, I'm sure you are, you know where 666 comes from, right? 666 is the mark of the beast in the Bible. The 666 mark comes in during halfway in the middle of the thing called Jacob's trouble. Now, a lot of people refer to this as the 7 years of tribulation. They call it all the tribulation. Well, it is 7 years of tribulation, but that's not the name of it. It's not called tribulation, the 7 years of tribulation in the King James Bible. It's called the 7 years of Jacob's trouble. Jacob being Israel. Okay, so the whole purpose of the 7 years of Jacob's trouble is to bring the lost Jews back to Christ. Because we have Jews, we have real Jews, we probably have Jews that are Christians, we have Jews that are not Christians, and then we have fake Jews called the synagogue of Satan. Now, which ones do we have running Israel over there? Probably the synagogue. Okay, but that's a whole nother podcast. However, during this 7 years of tribulation, according to the Bible, 3.5 years into this time, the Antichrist takes over the temple and reveals himself as such, as the Antichrist, and demands worship. And during this process, he implements something called the mark of the beast. And if you don't take this mark in your forehead or in your hand, you will not buy or sell. So in other words, you're going to die. You can't buy anything, you can't sell anything, you can't go to Walmart, everything will be shut down. I'm sure it'll be fully digital at that point. That's how they're going to do it. That's why they're pushing towards digital right now, in case you haven't figured that out. You know, they've got to have a control mechanism so they can control every cent that you see or spend. I digress on that. The point of the matter is the mark of the beast is 666. So 666 is obviously Satan's number. It's all through the Bible. And the more interesting thing is it's all through society. So anytime you think, is this thing maybe Satan behind it? Well, start looking at the numerology, because these guys love their numerology. So, hey, every time we have a big storm, it ends in 6. That way we can say 666. Make sense? You know, and I'll bring flat earth into this, of course, because, you know, we have the globe supposedly on a tilt of 23.4, whatever it is, on a 90-degree angle. It has, so what the remainder is 66.6 degrees on tilt. Of course, 666. You know, the earth is supposedly spinning around the sun at 66,600 miles an hour, 666. Anytime the devil's involved and the government's involved, this corrupt deal that we have running the show out here, up pops your 666s and up pops your 333s, your 33s. Everything's in 30, it's just 33. I'm putting that out there. Start paying attention. 33 killed. This thing happened at 10:33 p.m. Oh, he got hit in the head and he got 33 stitches. On and on and on. So, yeah, that's not a conspiracy theory. You can follow that. I was doing a little research here. This is the Earth curvature chart here, which is Earth curvature reference chart, which is 8 inches per mile squared, which is, these are not, you know, these are clearly not my numbers. The government came out with these numbers. But anyway, when you start looking through this list of the different stuff and you start doing these calculations, everything comes up with 0.666, seems like. Everything's a 0.66 or 666 or point tons of sixes. So this is a very common thing. So is this any wonder that we have a giant, you know, record-breaking storm on the way? Okay. 666 all the way down. And then we have, you know, popular guys like Ted Cruz, who is in one of these areas that's forecasted to be hit. They shag. You know, he gets out of Dodge quick. You think he's going to come back in the middle of this thing? Of course not. So the people in the know get out of the area, and he's gone. And, you know, you start looking at this stuff, and it just so happens all in these same areas, people have been filming airplanes apparently spraying something into the air. Okay, we've heard of a chemtrail, right? So we've got airplanes spraying things in the air and crisscrossing all over the place right about the same areas and right before we have a major event like this. Now, you got to be very careful what you say on this, because I mentioned all I was doing was talking about the weather. But if you mention the weather and that somebody could be controlling the weather, this podcast, YouTube, all that will get a flag, and it gets idled down, and nobody ever even sees the podcast. Nobody even knows it exists. So I've got to be real careful what I say. But I think you understand the point that I'm trying to get across here, is that we have lots of airplanes flying around, apparently doing nothing but flying, because they don't seem to be going anywhere other than in circles and in patterns that don't make any sense. So in other words, if you were to get on this airplane and think you're going to fly from here to Dallas, and this thing flies a checkered pattern for 5 hours, you probably want your money back, right? So these can't be passenger airplanes. Not all of them. This doesn't add up. Of course, we know what's going on. So we can talk about that some other time. So these things are out spraying, constantly spraying. And then lo and behold, we have some kind of a big weather, decade long type, once every decade type deal event. Is it related, or is it just coincidence? I mean, how many coincidences can you get before it raises a red flag and you're like, let's see, what kind of weather are we going to have? Oh, let's look up. Oh, look at all that smoke in the air that's making a checkered pattern. Look at all that. And it starts off one way, and then pretty soon it's fogged up the whole area, and next thing you know, you've got thick fog that's, down on you for no reason. And all of a sudden you've got severe weather out of the blue. So, yeah. These guys let you know what they're doing. All you got to do is look up to begin with, but I don't think it's a coincidence. I don't think most of you think it's a coincidence. Can't prove it, and don't know who's behind it. We have states now that are banning this kind of stuff. The state's not in control of the air above it. That's federal airspace. The feds control it. These people are flying around. Nobody seems to be doing much about it. Nobody seems to care. Makes you wonder who's doing what and who's behind it. Who's paying for all this? But it's like I've said before. I mean, if you don't understand this is a genocide type situation. So, I've already laid that out for you. It's all the way. Number one, they don't want two people getting together having any babies. They don't want that. So that's why they push gay and trans constantly. And, and now they're doing, of course, not just trans, but they get these trans people, they want to butcher you. So cut off all of your body parts. And so then if two, male and female, actually do get together and have a child, well, you don't really want the child to abort it. So they try to get you to do that. They try to get you to murder it. If you won't do that and have it, well, then they're like, well, here's what we need to do. We need to get, instead of, 10 snake bites that it doesn't need, let's put 72 in there. And, of course, it will either drive the infant mad or cause all kinds of horrible illnesses. And then, then it's unalived. And then if you don't do that or even get it and still survive, it's like, well, here's some poison we're going to put in your water and some poison we're going to put in your food. We're going to poison everything that you see, hear, feel, and touch. Oh, and we're going to spray it in the air too. So as soon as you walk outside and take a deep breath, you're going to inhale aluminum and magnesium and all kinds of other particles in the air that were never meant to be there. All that don't work. Well, a tornado may just wipe you out then. Or you'll freeze to death. You see? I mean, it's just never ending. But, I mean, it makes perfect sense. It's just genocide. It all boils down to, which I've said many, many times, The devil is running this world. Everything is controlled by him. He hates you if you're a human. He hates you. He wants you dead. He wants you dead simply because God wants you to live. God loves you, so he hates you. So, I mean, he wants as many as he can get to, never make it to the point where they can get saved, or, if you do get saved, ruin you in some way and ruin your life anyway, so you're gone. So, because he's, like I said, hell, God made hell for the devil and his angels. And if you're not saved, that's where you'll end up. So you think the devil wants to be alone down there? He knows he's going down there. He wants you to suffer too. So anyway, it's a genocide type situation is what I think. Having said that, I hope and pray that nobody gets killed out of this deal. I have a feeling if it's as bad as what they say it's going to be, there's probably going to be lots of injuries and probably deaths. And I hate that. I wish it wasn't the case. So if you're in any of these impacted areas, you just have to be safe. Make sure you've got, a lot of people live in apartments and stuff. And so, if you're living in an apartment complex, let's say, you couldn't run a generator anyway. They wouldn't allow it, I'm sure. Where would you put it? So you're just pretty much stuck in your apartment. And if electricity goes off, if you can't make it anywhere else, you just better bundle up, I guess. You would have had to have prepared, get a little, propane, those little My Heats, or what do they call it? The little, their little propane bottle fired heater. Those things, you can run those indoors. So, you would have had to have had some of those in advance because they're probably all sold out now. I know here where I'm at, I went and everything was sold out of most places. So people were going crazy buying generators and, of course, bread and milk, whole 9 yards. So if you wait till the last minute, you're not going to be able to get anything like that. You have to think way in advance. I've had a generator for years. All I had to do is get gasoline to put in it. So anyway, I hope it doesn't happen, and I hope everybody out there is safe. However, you've just got to think and understand that if you don't understand why this is happening, I've been keeping track of this, several different news things. Of course, this is all a lot of allegedly. I can't prove any of this. This is all allegedly, right? That they're wanting to shut some stuff down. They're wanting to shut the internet down for a while. A lot of tests are going on, just like the Verizon deal the other day. These cell phone towers and stuff keep going down in these certain areas, complete blackouts for no reason. So I think we're getting really close to something where we're getting down close to the end times. That's sooner than we think. And there's going to be lots of things like this happening back to back to back. And I know it's easy to sit here and talk about it because we haven't had anything like that here as far as cataclysmic events. But it's just a matter of time. It's just a matter of time. Here, all around us, we've had record floods, people getting killed. It's just unbelievable. There's still all the flood stuff going on over there. People buried up. Of course, now the government, they're trying to come in and try to take your land. It's unbelievable. They want those taxes, stuff like that. The flood comes in, destroys everything you own, buries your house, your kids, everything. And boy, the next day, here comes the tax man, and he wants paid on all this. Well, here's your taxes. It's like, well, aren't those taxes, having to do with developed property? Well, yeah. Well, it's not developed anymore. It's decimated. There's no house. There's no well. There's no water. There's no septic. Nothing. It's all completely gone. But you want me to pay taxes as if there's a mansion on it. Oh, no, that's okay. Don't pay it. We'll just come take it. That's how they do. And so, That's why I don't get too much into these politics. These politics that are going on right now in the news, all it is to pit people together. If people would band together, they would see what these governments and stuff are actually doing, and so maybe somebody could put a stop to it. But we're too busy, running around here, red versus blue, left versus right, all kinds of racial divisions that shouldn't even be taking place. And people are bought into it, and they're falling for it, hook, line, and sinker. They're just going along with it. Meanwhile, we've got governments out here stealing people's property, stealing people's land, just you name it. And nobody can do anything about it. And of course, we do have actual lunatic left out there too. We've got them running around out there too, harassing people and, tearing stuff up and rioting and burning people's houses down and businesses down. And you've got that going on too. Of course, they're the ones that are, touched. They believe everything they see on CNN, on the Clinton News Network. They believe everything they see and hear on there, so they're ready to riot over nothing. They're out there tearing other people's stuff up. The government, don't you understand that these governments are the one causing all this stuff? The government's the one taking people's lands, doing stuff they're not supposed to be doing, and getting away with it, murdering people. So, anyway, I digress on that. That's another podcast all in itself. But anyway, so, yes, storm's supposed to hit later this evening. So I figured I'd get this podcast out because you never know, I might get blown away. And I'll try to stay updated if I have electricity and stuff, which hopefully I will. And we'll try to get some more podcasts out here. So right now it's a little below 30 degrees. We've got a very high north wind, and it feels like 9 outside, and it does feel like 9. It is cold. But it's not near as cold as some places. Some places, I've talked to a guy earlier, and he said it was -8 there, and that's in the middle of the day. He's a lot further north than what I am. So, anyhow, I guess we're going to wrap it up. I guess that'll be that. Oh, I wanted to thank, I can't remember the names here. Hold on. Let me pull up Patreon real quick. Okay, got that pulled up. So I do have Patreon also, by the way, and I wanted to thank, I have 3 Patreon members right now that subscribed. The newest guy that subscribes named Frank. I've got one named Mark and one named Jake. So all 3 of those are actually a very low paid subscription. It's not very expensive, in other words. But I appreciate it. Any little thing helps. So I do have a Patreon, and you can subscribe there if you wanted to. So those guys there have actually subscribed on there, so I appreciate that. Anything helps. And, if a person wanted to, I've also got, you can subscribe on, Spotify as well. So, anyway, having said all of that, let's see here. I've got, what else do I have on here? Okay, there it is. There's my Spotify. You can go check that out. There's the Flat Earth Bible on Amazon if you're interested in that. This is, what is this? This is TikTok here. So I have a TikTok now if you want to check that out. I just repost. I repost things about space and what if I told you, about fake NASA, that kind of stuff. Let's see here. I also got YouTube. Melchizedek Chronicles by Dr. Kenny Williamson on YouTube. Go check that out. Also have this right here, a Rumble channel. Melchizedek Chronicles by Dr. Kenny Williamson official. So there you have it. So I've got all that if you want to go check that out. If you notice, did you notice the deal in the very beginning? It says, warning, this podcast contains material that some people may find offensive. And you can identify who some people are from the stupid comments they leave. I I thought you might find that interesting. I do get lots of good comments, and I get lots of silly comments or stupid comments. Some of them are absolutely ridiculous. Some of them are pretty good. But I like the comments. I try to read them all and respond. So check those out. Leave me a comment. Give me an email, truthseekers@gmail, truthseekers2012@gmail.com. Yeah, it's flatbro.com, truthseekersministry.org. Check any of that out. See what you think. Let me know. And, yeah. So, again, I'm praying for everybody for the storm, that nobody gets injured. I suggest you do the same. And thanks for listening. Until we meet again, God bless you.